Wow, what a game we've just seen. We have to catch our breath back and to dissect this review of qualifier 2 between Delhi and KKR at Sharjah. We have a man who returns, Jarrod Kimber. And Jarrod, let's get straight into it because it's been that kind of game. Ebbs and flows, especially in the last five. We thought KKR threw it away. Rahul Tripathi, Critletics' son, strikes and strikes how?
Yeah, I mean, it was a fascinating game because of how much the conditions played a part. And, dew, when the ball got soft. I mean, once the ball got soft after the dew was on it, you couldn't hit it, could you? So Rahul Tripathi doing, just an incredible job to be able to clear a boundary at that point. Especially as he spent most of his time at the non-strikers end wondering what the hell was going on. But yeah, it was a fascinating, low-scoring game, and Delhi out in straight sets. Incredible.
Incredible indeed. We'll pick the bones out of it. Would you blame Ashwin if you're Ricky Ponting? Because he got you back in the game. It was a long hop, and perhaps even a tail ender could have hit that out of the park. Or am I wrong?
No, I mean, he couldn't keep bowling the same balls he was bowling. He was probably looking for something a little bit different. He had success with that ball earlier in the game, even when the ball wasn't as soft. And he possibly thought that, being a little bit short of length, that would make Tripathi have to sort of play a different kind of shot. The sort of shot you don't usually play off a spinner. It just happened to be in this particular case that he got hold of it. I mean, I don't think you blame any bowler when you're defending, what was it, 6 or 7 in the last over. If you're defending that much, it's always, even in this situation, the batters were always at a massive advantage because all you need is one hit.
Yeah, indeed. And it came down to that one hit eventually. And Owen Morgan was certainly a relieved man over there. Now, they got away with it in RCB, of course, 2 nights earlier. And this time, of course, just through Rahul Tripathi. At the halfway mark, would you rather be in Delhi's camp or KKR's camp? Because with that bowling attack, you thought that they could stifle them early on?
I thought that once the dew came in, that they probably hadn't scored enough runs. I think Delhi made a couple of errors with their batting order. I think putting Marcus Stoinis up, probably you could have got someone else to score around 20 off 20 at that point, which would have allowed
half a match.
Yeah, exactly, which would have allowed for Hetmeyer and Stoinis to muscle the ball at the end, which is, as a general rule, I think Stoinis is a much better player when he's up the order than in down the order. But I think in these specific conditions, I just don't think he was going to be able to do that unless you actually send him out to open, which would have been an interesting option. But once the new ball was a little bit dead, I couldn't see how he was going to get it away. A couple of times with their batting order as well, I thought Hetmeyer should have come in a little bit earlier and these sorts of things. But essentially, I thought that they were, 10 to 15 short. When the dew came in, I mean, at one stage it looked 20 to 25 short until the combination of the soft ball and the pitch really took over at the end. And you see this a lot. It's just a bit more dramatic in the way that it happened in Kolkata's innings than it was in Delhi's innings. But yeah, I think Delhi probably got a few things wrong throughout the game. And realistically, what did I say? They were 10 or 15 short. Maybe they were 5 short.
Yeah, and it kind of made it seem like they were 10 short. And I say that because when KKR were just going and milking and cantering along, it seemed like the wheels were coming off for Delhi. Drop catches, overthrows, misfields. And that could have perhaps been a 10 of 2. Who knows if they kind of just not let those opportunities slip. Let's talk about KKR because it could have been a completely different conversation we would have been having right now, how they would have cocked it up because they were 113 for 1 in 15 overs. Then they lost 5 for 17 in 4.4 overs or something like that. What does this do for them? Because CSK will be a tough lot to beat, especially it's not in Sharjah.
No, which Kolkata at this stage probably don't want to leave Sharjah, do they? Look, I think the way they've played since the resumption is like they're playing with other people's money. And by that, I mean that they kind of feel like this season was already finished, right? And they've come back from nowhere to get into a position like this. So there's almost nothing for them to lose. There's everything for Chennai to lose. That doesn't mean that Chennai is going to be tenser or anything like that. But Kolkata finished 4th, scraped by for 4th, realistically. Have then beaten 2 teams above them already. Now playing probably the best team in the competition in Chennai. Yes, it's a different pitch, but they can throw everything they have. And that's what they've been doing. I talked about it after the resumption. We talked about it on heaps of episodes. They were basically at that point just trying random things, right? And some of them didn't make a lot of sense. But in trying all these different things, they've actually cottoned on to a fairly good lineup. How, whether they want Andre Russell to come back into this is very interesting for Kolkata, especially if they move out of Sharjah. But by trying all those things, they've come up with a very good line, and they've just said to their players, "Look, we've got nothing to lose here. We have to win all these games. It's improbable. Let's just try, go for it as hard as we can." That's what they did again today. I don't think there was anything in that game that made me think they're a massively better team than Delhi. And I felt the same with Bangalore. I don't think they're massively better than either of those sides, but they've just had a couple of close ones go their way and conditions help them out. And that's what you need. These are knockout, games that they're playing. Essentially, the conditions dictate a large part of the results, unless the teams are massively, unless the teams aren't very equal. And I would say that Delhi and Bangalore are slightly better teams than Kolkata, throughout the entirety of the season. But I don't think there's a lot in it.
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned that, because ultimately KKR enter the finals, finishing fourth at the league stage. Now, there was only the one instance in IPL history that a team who's finished fourth has gone on to win the IPL, and that was Sunrisers Hyderabad in 2016. We're in 2021, so let me just correct that. So that was 5 years ago. If they can go do that, let's see. But that question that you kind of took it off my mouth early, Andre Russell, given the fact it's a different surface, do you think that the Knights could be, you know what, Shakib, you've done your bit for us. It's a straight swap between you and Russell.
I suppose now it almost comes down to conditions. Realistically, they're hamstrung by the fact they've got to get Owen Morgan in this team. There's absolutely no doubt that Andre Russell and Shakib Al Hasan bring more to this team in terms of batting and bowling than Owen Morgan currently does. I also thought Owen Morgan got a nick behind and Rishabh Pant didn't appeal for it, the ball before his
I thought that was bat and ground, but you might be right.
No, you might be right. I would have definitely reviewed it, though, if I was Rishabh Pant. All I'm saying is it's possible Owen Morgan went out 2 balls in a row. Shakib, we've seen with his bowling, his batting's not much better than Owen Morgan's, but his bowling is, but he still gives them batting depth. Andre Russell is a completely different beast, in every way. But he is a seam bowler. His bowling is not as good as Shakib's. But, if you're going up in a final and you're Chennai, you really don't want to go up against him, especially as Chennai don't have a lot of very fast bowlers and they don't have a lot of wrist spinners. 2 things that occasionally Andre Russell can struggle with. He likes fast, medium and medium fast bowlers, and he doesn't mind finger spins as a general rule. So that gives him a selection issue. I think that's very fair to say, but that's a good one to have. I think, which way you're going to go at the moment. But having Andre Russell just on the fringe of your team, it also shows how brilliant they've been. They've been able to do this without Andre Russell taking wickets.
And he was fully kitted up as well and just waiting for his turn, I'm guessing. So that could be WrestleMania at the final. And he loves CSK, remember? So that could be in the mix as well. Let's speak about Delhi Capitals, because, of course, we'll only see them next year. Who's going to be retained, who's not? Presume that 3 retentions and 2 right to matches. We saw the Delhi Capitals owners, Parth Jindal, he was kind of living the emotion, so to speak. Who will he retain? Because Pant, is he an obvious choice? Iyer, Rabada, there's so many names. If you're one of the owners, who would you go for, Jarrod?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure on Pant, I think automatic decisions. I probably think Akshar Patel is probably the 3rd one for me.
Really?
Because he can bat at 7 and doesn't go for any runs. I think that if that's what you're doing, it probably just depends on what you think people will pay him outside of that. So you could always write to match him. But if you're looking at paper, he can bat, he can bowl, and he can field. There aren't that many players like that in the entire league, and they have struggled to find a proper all-rounder around him. Now, he's not ideal, but there aren't that many Indian all-rounders out there that that can do that job. So if you can get one, I would keep him. But yes, certainly Prithvi Shaw and Pant would be automatic. Shikhar Dhawan, I would probably just on age be maybe seeing what the market says about him. So I'd be more likely to write to match him. And Shreyas Iyer would be the other player that I would be looking at doing. I don't think they necessarily need to hire any of the internationals back, any of the overseas players. I think the overseas players are great. They might with Rabada or Nokia, but I'm not sure I would do that. And the other one is obviously Ashwin. And it probably just depends again on how long they think Ashwin will play. Will he play through the entire cycle? Because that's the other thing. You really want your player to play through until the next mega auction cycle. You don't want them to suddenly retire or lose form which Ashwin or Dhawan could do. So if that was me, I'd kind of keep the youngish core and back that, and then see who else I could steal in right to matching.
Yeah, intriguing picks that you've not mentioned any of the awesome pace bowlers in Avanish, Hegde, or Nokia. Reason for that?
Avanish is probably the only other one I would do. I mean, I probably, I'd need to go through the numbers. I mentioned Rabada and Nokia. I think they're fantastic, but I think that local players are worth more than overseas players, unless they're Rashid Khan or Andre Russell. And you can't replace them, right? If you can't replace them with anything else as an overseas player, and they're an absolute banker, AB de Villiers is another one, then you keep them. But I think in Rabada's case and Nokia's case, as good as they are, I just think that the core of the Delhi team is really this top order batting, this top four Indian local batting, which is fantastic. You then have the ability with the two spinners who spin it in two different directions. And then you have, as you said, Avesh Khan as well. I would have no problem if he was in the top 5 players that they picked. I'd probably be looking at Dhawan and Ashwin to be the two that I was least interested in bringing back, just purely because of their age, and I don't know how much longer either of them are going to be performing at this level. Whereas I think all the other guys have kind of proven that they can do that. And Avesh Khan's one of those ones a little bit on the middle where you're taking a punt on him, just on the fact that he's an incredibly talented player. But we've seen a lot of young Indian fast bowlers who peter out after a couple of seasons. So I'd be backing him, but I could see why they might take a punt on Dhawan or Ashwin ahead of him.
Yeah, well justified there, and only time will tell who they will choose, and it could be more than 3. We're not really.
We have no idea. That's the other thing, isn't it?
Yeah. MS Dhoni, said that at a toss, I think, earlier this season, that he literally doesn't have any idea about what the retention is going to be. So that's a chat for another day. We'll end this chat and review by just looking ahead and asking a quick prediction what's going to unfold on Friday. We'll get you for the preview, I'm guessing, because it is going to be a humdinger. CSK KKR, a repeat of the 2012 final. And that time it went the Knights' way. MS Dhoni, he's going to be retiring around the corner. I'm sure about that. He's got 3 titles. His rivals, Mumbai, have got 5. Now, if he wins this, it's 4. And I also want to throw in another stat here, or possibility, or a situation, however you want to view it, Jarrod. If MS Dhoni decides to bowl first, do you think it's done and dusted at the toss because they've just been supreme in chasing?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I suppose Chakravarti and Narayan, if they get any assistance off the wicket, are going to make any chase more difficult. Okay. But having said that, Chennai has been almost at their best with finger spinners through the middle, haven't they? So they've certainly got a lot of options to be able to go there. Moeen can attack, and Rayudu has been quite good, and they probably won't play rain through that middle period. But yeah, it's a fascinating game. I think you'd be, without, running through the teams really, really closely to see how they match up perfectly. Chennai just looks like the better team on paper. They have all year. There can always be a special performance from the other team. But Kolkata have looked incredible since coming back, since the resumption. And Chennai had a bit of a slip up before the game against Delhi. I think that you would probably take Chennai, 5 or 6, maybe 6 times out of 10, 5.5 times out of 10. But I don't think, a Kolkata win certainly wouldn't surprise me with the cricket that they've played since resumption.
Yeah, that old saying that all Chennai fans and MS Dhoni fans in particular say is that he creates his own luck. So let's see if Friday is truly a lucky one for him and a memorable for Super Kings and their franchise. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Jarrod Kimber. It's just been a pleasure to just again get in touch with you and talk about what's been truly a riveting game. KKR fans, enjoy it, soak it in, because it's been a sublime couple of days. Will it be a week to remember for the Knight Riders? Only time will tell. Join us soon. Until the next time, it's a goodbye from me.